Yeah, since it's 7:01, I'm just going to start the recording. And as we wait for folks to trickle in, how about y'all introduce me to y'all, and then once everyone's here, then I'll say who I am in total. That way we don't have to hear me talk about myself 50 times over. Work for y'all?
Sure,
Yes,
that's
that
fine.
works.
Okay. So I think this is the first session that I'm leading, particularly for ABFMP. So if you haven't been able to tell yet, I am very informal. Yes, I'm an attending, but like you can save all that doctor, yes or no sort of stuff for somebody else. We're all family here. So feel free, as we're talking about things today, just gonna get crazy. If everybody's unmuted, like raise your hand and I'll find you if you have that ability. All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Kia. Kia, you look just like someone I went to school with, but like sixth grade school.
Oh, wow. Where are you from?
South Carolina?
Oh, yeah. I'm from Wisconsin, so missed you a little bit.
I don't know. One of my best friends from high school, she's originally from Wisconsin, so never mind. Not the one you look like.
Okay. Doppelganger out there, I guess.
We all go back to the Southeast anyways. Okay. So, Catherine, I think you were first on this little bit. So, or we could just start with you, Kia. It's only 3 people, so ain't like, there's a lot of variation here. Why don't y'all just give me a quick rundown of who you are, where you're at in this process, and we'll go from there.
Sure, I can start. So my name is Kia Simmons Booker. I am a 4th year at the Medical College of Wisconsin in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Excited to be applying in the match currently for family medicine. And I'm just excited to just learn more about the rank process and just get some clarity.
Right on. This year, and this is your 4th year, but like totally like traditional track to get here.
Not completely traditional. So I went to Florida A&M University for undergrad, so FAMU. And then from there, I did an AmeriCorps year, so a service year with that. And then I did research for a year, and then I went to med prep. I see another med prep person online.
Hey, girl.
And from there, then that's when I went to medical school. So 4 years in between.
Awesome. All right, because I just thought of a new icebreaker while you were talking. What do you think is the strongest thing about your residency application?
Ooh, that's hard.
All the interviews you just did and you can't answer the question?
You put me on the spot, but okay. So I think the strongest portion about my residency application, I would say, is my personal statement. I really tried to leave it all out there on the floor to make sure that people really knew who I was. So I'll go with that.
Right on. Okay. So that you're next to Kia on my screen. So tell me about yourself, friend.
Okay, hello. I'm Sylvette Rogers. I am a recent graduate of Caribbean Medical University. So this is my second cycle applying. Definitely learned a lot in between the last cycle and this cycle. Originally from South Carolina as well. Currently living in Atlanta, Georgia. And I see Catherine is on. Hi, Catherine. We met at an interview.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. I've been meaning to message you back. Haven't forgotten about you.
No, you're fine. This is a busy time for everybody, so you're fine.
I know. I think the strongest aspect of my application is that I am a non-traditional student. I do have work experience. I had work experience prior to going to medical school. And I guess one of my questions, well, we're not going into questions yet, are we? No?
What? Well, I mean, I would like for other people to introduce themselves first.
Okay, yeah, sorry, my bad. I'm jumping the gun. Okay. Oh, yep, glad to be here.
Great. But what part of South Carolina are you from?
I'm from Marion County. Where are you from?
The Low Country, Colleton County.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah, I'm actually in Newberry County now for practicing.
Okay.
Cool. All right, Catherine.
Hello, everyone. I'm Catherine Green. So it's nice to see Sylvette and Kia again. And for the other two people who just joined, welcome. I'm not like leading it or anything, but I saw y'all join. Fourth year, I'm at Southern Illinois University School of Medicine. Similar to Kia, I did med prep a couple of years after I graduated college. So I also did the non-traditional route where I didn't go straight into med school, had to kind of retake that MCAT a couple of times, did med prep, and then kind of matriculated my way in. So it's been a arduous but very rewarding journey. Happy to be at this point, finally. Very, very interested in family medicine and happy to be here tonight to learn more about, rank list and everything that entails. And I think you asked the strongest part of our application. So that is kind of a tough question. I feel like we're all probably pretty strong applicants. I think for me, one thing that kind of, I guess, makes me a little unique, I'm finally a self-published author. So that's something I'm really proud of. Love writing poetry. So I got that out Labor Day. Yes. Yes. So first book is out. Very proud of that. Hoping to get another one out maybe this coming summer. We'll see. And yeah, I'll leave it at that.
You said you write books of poetry?
Yeah, so I've always kind of been into poetry, but I finally published my first book, Labor Day 2022.
Oh, word, self-published, or you got a publisher? Or?
I go through, so there's this website called Poetizer. It's kind of small scale, so I'm starting small and then hoping to get it to Amazon and bookstores. But yeah, they started doing the self-publishing thing early last year. And they have it so that you can pretty much make it what you want to make it, from the cover, everything, in the book, etc. And they'll put it together for you.
Nice. Well, congrats on that.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Deaisha, you are next in my line of pictures.
Hey everyone, I'm Deaisha. I am currently a fourth year at SUNY Upstate, and I'm also one of the match representatives on the ABFMP board. I think something that makes my application really strong, I think that's what we're answering, is letter of recs and my personal statement. I worked really hard on both, well, mostly on the personal statement. And I think I did a really good job of capturing who I was and just explaining something that was really important to me.
Nice. For those of you who are just joining, we're just doing introductions. I haven't missed anything, even though I clearly look like the most checked out guy here. I am leading this session. I'm Dr. Lance Bray. I'm a family medicine attending, one of the board members for the ABFMP. But just so y'all understand, like my whole thing about this whole process is you already did all the hard work. Ain't no need to stress about this. So y'all come to the beach with me mentally. I only got one milkshake, but I'm sure y'all can find whatever your equivalent is wherever you're at. So right now we just have y'all going through introducing yourselves, and then the icebreaker question is like, what is the strongest part of your match application? All right, so thank you, Deaisha. Renee, your square is up next, my friend.
Wow, what is the strongest part of the application? I have to think about that.
You can start by introducing yourself first. You ain't gotta jump in.
I know, but
Don't
okay,
freak
so
out. That's the first one.
sorry.
That's the first
The
one.
meeting
Don't freak out.
I'm just getting my headphones.
Okay. So hi everyone, my name is Renee. I graduated from American University of Antigua in fall 2021. I'm trying to think of what's the strongest part of my application. I mean, I guess I'm a non-traditional student, as I actually did finance. I didn't practice it, but I have a bachelor's in finance before I switched over to medicine. So I guess that's kind of like a strong point, because I'll take those same analytical skills and translate it into medicine in terms of analyzing diagnoses and stuff like that. So yeah.
No, I mean, I think that fits exactly, Renee. I mean, just by your background in finance, you're already more financially savvy than 98% of the people on this call. So good job to you. All right. All right. Mrs. Taylor, I get angry at people that mess up names, so I'm not going to try and butcher yours on accident. But please tell me how your name is pronounced and introduce yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Redia, like you're ready to go somewhere.
Let's go.
So I'm a fourth year. I go to Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine in Philly. And I guess the strongest part of my application, I would say, is like my creative pursuits. As far as like my Instagram, because that came up a lot on interviews. And like I also have an Etsy shop.
Well, now you got to tell us what your Instagram all about and how we find you, friend.
Well, it's called Creative in a White Coat, and I make like lifestyle, inspirational, and humorous TikToks. And I also have a creative in a white coat collection of my Etsy shop, and I'm selling match day t-shirts, which I put in the group chat.
Oh, that's awesome. Actually, this is a good chance to plug. So in the future, we're actually going to have a session on how to leverage social media for your professional and personal
Oh,
enjoyment.
that's amazing.
Yeah, and I'm going to lead it. So get ready, because
Nice,
you
nice.
think today is crazy. Just wait. But all right, cool. And I'm glad to hear that it is pronounced Redia. That's what I was going to say.
Okay, cool.
Embarrass myself because my mama taught me better than that. All right. So I think that leaves only our co-presenter. Joyce, do you want to introduce yourself? You don't have to do the question.
Hey y'all, I'm so sorry. I of course didn't read the Eastern time. I'm in Central over here. But hey y'all, I'm a first year resident at Lawndale Christian Health Center. It's in Chicago, and I actually was able last year to master my #1 spot, and so I so grateful for that. And I know exactly how it feels to be in y'all shoes last year, and how like nervous and just how like it's just so many emotions, good, bad, whatever, when it comes to rank season. And so I'm so I get it. And I'm also an IMG too. I want to throw that out there. And so sometimes I feel like IMGs don't don't always have the opportunity to go to a great program sometimes. So yeah, I'm open for all questions, and maybe I could share like how I was able to rank my list later, or maybe now. I don't know.
All right, I'll let you know when. Sorry, triple demic. It's not COVID, I promise. So thank you. I guess I'll introduce myself now. So like I said, my name's Lance. I am a family medicine. I'm actually in solo private practice out here in South Carolina. I graduated from Lawrence Family Medicine residency along with our president, Dr. Ryan Walker, June of last year, from the program there in Lawrence, Massachusetts. I do full spectrum family medicine with OB, inpatient and outpatient, and grew up in South Carolina, did college at a military school, med school at MUSC. And yeah, and now I'm here. And like I was already saying before, like I was saying before, you know, the big thing I want to make sure we're all aware of this process, no matter if it's your first or like your 31st time in the match. It ain't worth the stress. You already did all your interviews, right? So what is there to worry about? Nothing. All right. So anyways, that's first step one. And then the second thing that I also want y'all to know is, you know, I know that this process can really beat you down and makes you feel like when somebody in a non-threatening situation is like, hey, tell me about the strongest part of your application, you start having like an existential crisis. But y'all made it this far. Y'all are awesome. Like, without getting too much off the soapbox and Ryan firing me at the end of all this, like, y'all are Black exceptionalism. So I don't care if you graduated top of your class, bottom of your class, IMG, not IMG, Caribbean school, online school. You're here, you made it, you beat the odds, and no one can ever take that away from you. And no matter what, come May or December, whenever your academic year ends, you're going to be an MD, and they can never take that from you. So breathe. All right. But our goal tonight is to really talk to y'all about kind of this strategy. Y'all know, you know, over the years, med students like to overthink things. And we're really just talking about putting names on the list. So before me and Joyce kind of dive in and kind of give y'all our input into kind of what worked for us, well, first off, by a show of virtual hands, how many of you were able to watch the video? See, one hand, one I did. So 2 folks. Okay, that's fine. Full disclosure, y'all, I ain't even watched the video, but it's okay because we will get through it. So any questions that y'all have about the video or anything there before we go on with the program. Looks like that's a no from the group. So before we really kick this thing off, I guess I kind of got a sense from the way I was answering your questions, but I've been giving my whole spiel about, like, you know, don't stress. How are y'all feeling right now? Where are we at? Anybody needs a hug? Puppy? Silence is concerning. So at least if you can say, no, I'm good, like that would be helpful.
I guess I can start then. I'm just laughing at Catherine. Okay. But I think for me, it's just I want to make sure that I applied to some really amazing programs, and I just want to make sure that I just put the right order so that I can grow to be the best, resident and future attendant possible. And so, as you already mentioned, like getting a little bit of like perfectionism with the whole idea, just trying to make sure to do that with my truest self possible, if that makes sense. Like making sure I'm not like using like the program's thoughts of me, or using like my mentors like thoughts of how this situation or rank list should look like influence how I want to truly rank. I guess it's kind of like where I am.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that honesty and the transparency. Joyce, do you have anything you want to say that before I say my bit about people and their opinions?
Please go what you want. Okay, your mentor is not gonna be the one there as an intern putting in all the orders for you. Like, she's not gonna be there like literally in your position. So please do what you feel like is true to you. Of course, like take the advice from your mentor, but also remember like it's what you want, what's the best for you. And then as far as like your thoughts about how the program I see you or view you, like it's really hard to tell sometimes, and I think like sometimes it can be deceptive, or sometimes it's hard to read people. So I think it's, again, I always hear people say that like you need to rank where you want to go, and not necessarily where you feel like they'll rank you. And you literally have no idea how they're going to rank you. So I think it's priority to kind of place programs where you want to go based on what you felt on interview day and the things that are non-negotiables to you, which I can talk about later. But it's definitely about where you want to go. And I know like it is really hard to decide like this is going to affect the rest of my life and the rest of my career. But like you said, you have a lot. If you're saying that there's a lot of programs that are really great, then it's like you're gonna get really great training at any of them, and so I think what's most important is like the environment of where you work, and less about like how the place looks like on paper. So I'll just stop there.
No, I mean, I agree with all of that. Like she said, ain't nobody gonna be on night float with you wherever you end up at. So you gotta do what's right for you, baby girl. And I mean, y'all realize eventually that I have no filter. This is how I feel about people and their opinions, right? Everybody's got opinions, everybody's got buttholes. You don't gotta care about everybody's buttholes, you know what I mean? So I always tell people when it comes down to like whose opinion I really care about, it's like if I heard they have butthole cancer, am I gonna be concerned? And usually that narrows it down to like immediate family and very, very close friends. But even then, in that case, like they're not you. They don't know what all you want to do. And it's really not that stressful because every one of these programs are all designed to help you pass the same test, right? So just like you just had to get into med school, like it didn't really matter where, after a while, like where you went, because you just needed some place to get you ready for a step and all that. Same difference. Like I could tell you from my own experience that you can't mess this up. I thought going into it, I had a really strong academic profile, that I was going to get my top choice. I got my third choice. And it's just like, yeah, I felt a little bit like Will Smith when he's like, why you don't want me, man? But it worked out because honestly, number 3 for me was the number 1 spot of where I really needed to be. And I grew in ways that like I could never have imagined. And I mean, I honestly would not be on this call with y'all if I did go to my first or second choice, because me and Dr. Walker would have never worked together. and I would have never been able to watch this beautiful organization come to fruition. So everything is going to work out, and just do what you feel. Like, you cannot outsmart, like, we're talking about an algorithm. You can't outsmart an algorithm. If anything, when you try to outsmart an algorithm, that's how you end up getting Skynet and Terminator, right? So like, just let it be. But how's everyone else feeling though? Anybody else, everyone kind of on the same page? Anybody chilling at the beach mentally with me? What's up? What's happening? And yes, spouse's opinions are important, but you will care about butthole cancer in your spouse.
I guess since I just put the little emoji up, I'll go. I don't necessarily feel nervous, but I feel like as it continues to approach and more people on Twitter are like, ooh, 2 months out, ooh, less than this number of days out, then it's kind of like, okay, all right, we get it. So it's a little nerve-wracking. I think I'm kind of the same as what Kia said, in that I have a pretty close mentor of mine who was one of my recommendation letter writers. So I've known this individual for a pretty long time. And, you know, sometimes she'll mention things like, oh, you know, I really hope you come here, da, 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 da. So it kind of puts a little bit of unnecessary stress on you a little bit, because sometimes it's like, well, but who at the end of the day is really going to, you know, make sure that I'm the person who is chosen, you know? So it's kind of like, I would love to stay here, but I also want to go somewhere else. And so it's kind of a lot to consider. So I think for me, I'm not allowing myself to freak out just yet. Hopefully I won't. But it's still a lot to handle. And I've been looking back over notes that I've taken for the interviews that I've had. And I don't know, I thought I wrote more notes for some of these places than I didn't. So now I'm like, dang, how did I feel about that particular place and this and that? So I think it's kind of starting to come to a head, but we'll kind of see how things pan out. So I don't know. I guess a question, how did you all even begin to organize how you were going to rank it? Did you all have like a priority list? Like, you know, if you all were married before, was that the most important thing to you, or was location more important, or whatever? Like, how did you all kind of start to organize your thoughts in terms of what was going to be your number one versus your number three versus et cetera?
I think that is a great segue into what I was really hoping to show you all at some point by the end of this. So Joyce, why don't you tell her how you made your list, and then I'll get all my stuff together.
I've been thinking, like, how can I say this in the shortest way possible? I would say, like, first off, like, I only applied to cities I was willing to live in. So geography didn't matter to me, because I knew that, like, if a place didn't have a lot of things to do or whatever, that I would be miserable in that town. So that's like off the bat. But when it came down to, like, after interview season and everything, like, I was kind of making a list as I was getting each interview. Like, if a program was amazing, like, you know, obviously move up my list, or, you know, program, like, it just kind of went awful and I just didn't like the vibes from either the resident or the attending interview. I just come with them down or whatever. So I kind of went based off what interview day, and then also like what the program offered for me. But when it came down to, like, especially like my top 4 or 5, you know, there were some non-negotiables that I really needed in a program, and how I felt like when I asked that on interview day was truly important. So like some of my 3 non-negotiables were like how I'm going to be supported as like a Black woman, like, and whether that looks like if they even have other Black women or other Black men in the program, not just as residents, but also like as an attending, and how did those people feel supported? Like, how that was like number 1 for me. And number 2 was like the culture of the place. And so, but in that it kind of is like, okay, do the residents hang out? Do they even like each other? Like, you know, and also like what's the relationship between the attendings and the residents? Because, like, you know, you're gonna for me personally, like, I need to like feel like safe, like my questions are safe. I don't want to feel stupid when I ask questions. I'm a learner, and so like there's so many things I'm gonna do wrong, making mistakes. I don't want to know how it feels in that environment. So just kind of like the culture overall. And the third thing was like some of my future goals in my career. So like I wanted the program to make sure they have opportunities that are already doing. So I don't want to be no pioneer in residency. There's so many things to do in residency. So is what I want in my future career already established there. Or, I mean, you know, unfortunately some programs might not have it, but like, would they have the support in place for me? So like one of my things that was important to me was like research. And so like, are they already doing research there already? Will they support the research ideas that I have? And so like, whether yours like global health or, you know, OB, you know, family med, whatever, like do they already have like a fellowship there, or, you know, do their, you know, residence match of OB or whatever. So whatever it is that your career goals are, like, would they support you and do they already have things in place for you to accomplish those? So those are my 3 non-negotiables. And honestly, like each program, like if they didn't have that, or I didn't feel like it was strong, like that's how I kind of maneuver certain programs up and down my list. So that's how I did it.
Anybody have any comments on that before I go ahead and say kind of what my mindset was going into it?
That was really helpful. Thank you.
So I'm gonna hope to be at least half as helpful, because here's the deal, y'all. The match, it's really just dating that you pay for. Like, you know, like we all have different things we're looking for. Somebody wants someone that's tall, somebody wants someone to smell good, somebody wants someone that can cook. And like by the end of it, your boo thing might be somebody's worst nightmare, but it don't matter because it's your boo thing. So Catherine, actually, I have a theory that equates the entire doctor journey into being an NFL player, just because I love football. And the tricky part is actually, to your point about the NBA draft pick, is like, I used to think that this was draft day, but then it's kind of not. But we can talk about that in another section. But yeah, so for me going into it, my full story on how I found family medicine was, I grew up playing sports. Like I'm saying, I'm a sports guy. My mother's a surgical nurse. So, you know, we're in a small town. She's like nursing director of the surgery center and stuff. So a lot of the doctors that I knew as like kind of like family, somewhat friends, were orthosurgeons. So it was like, this is a no-brainer. I like sports. Surgery seems dope. I'm going to be an orthosurgeon. And then I got into med school and actually started learning medicine. And I was shocked and appalled that people were out here dying. Well, all right, this is a true South Carolina story. I literally thought, y'all, that like you just get old, get diabetes, and you die. And then I went to med school and I was like, oh, wait a minute, this don't got to happen. Tells you a lot about South Carolina, right? And then I was like, well, we got to do something. So that led me into like public health and primary care. And then that eventually led me into family medicine. But I say that to say, like, you know, the way I came into this, I still kind of had that specialist surgical mindset where it's like, well, where do you want to go for residency? I want to go to the best family medicine program in the country, straight up, right? Because if I was a surgeon, I could say that and they'd be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then you find out that there is no one best family medicine program in the country because they're all so different. It's like, okay, well, do you want to do you want to do procedures? Like, what do you want to do? So really kind of what was my first filter was I took a year off between 3rd and 4th year of med school to get my MPH. And like, I did my capstone presentation for my MPH. And then that night caught a flight to Kansas City for AAFP National Conference. And I was just like, I just got to go someplace that's going to help me use like this public health knowledge I just spent a year getting. And that's what led me to my current to the program that I actually ended up graduating from. But, you know, so that was step one for me, is like, I need to go someplace to where when I ask, what do you do for public health? They tell me more than like, oh, we go to a soup kitchen at Thanksgiving. A lot of people dropped down my list from giving me that answer. I was like, any kind of community medicine or anything, like that's it. But then there was just other stuff for me. You know, I was married before the match. So I had to go someplace that my wife would like live. Fun fact, the reason, so where I actually ended up going, if I was single, would have been my number one choice. But because I was married, it was my third choice because I really loved it. But my wife did not want to live in New England, y'all. Look at God. Worked out anyways. And I didn't look like a jerk at the end of it. So, you know, just different things like that. And then like, y'all probably have this, and it's okay to say, I was surprised at what kind of petty things was killing programs for me by the end of it. And that's when I really felt like it was dating. Like, ever went on a date with somebody, like, I didn't like the way he closed his eyes and you don't want to talk to him no more. It was like that. I'll never forget. I went to Baltimore, University of Maryland. People were great. Attendings were great. Baltimore, you know, was a little more rough around the edges than like, you know, I was used to coming from the country, but I was like, I could do this. and they they thought I was from University of South Carolina School of Medicine instead of Medical University of South Carolina. And that tanked the program for me. It was like, I mean, you could tell it was like near the end of the season, like I was just getting aggravated for anything. It was just like, y'all can't even make sure you got the right med school on my tag. I'm not coming here. But like, yeah, it's just like little stuff like that. Or like Joyce was saying, don't rank somewhere that you don't want to be at. I honestly didn't want to interview at my own program at MUSC. My advisor made me. I was like, I don't want to be here. Like, I've seen it up. I'm not staying. She's like, you cannot not interview at your home program. I was like, I think I can, but because I liked her, I did it. Rank them dead last, if I even rank them. I don't even think I ranked them because, like I told you, I wasn't coming here. But like, just do whatever works for you. But the reason I was talking about like my weird hangups that I had at some places is because sometimes it's hard to stay objective. And if we just left you guys with that, you might be like, what the heck? Like, that puts me nowhere. So, because I'm a nerd, I got something for you. It's as simple as making an Excel spreadsheet. I was trying to find my the actual spreadsheet that I used when I was in y'all's shoes, but I guess I deleted it right after the match. Like, thank God I don't have to worry about that anymore. But I recreated one because it was that simple. Like, I did this in like 5 minutes. Everyone can see the Excel spreadsheet?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Look at that, Joyce, you got your own residency program. So all I did was literally type things out. And then like I had the programs, and then I had like things that mattered to me to make this fully immersive. I assume everyone cares about location. Are we going to go with the Joyce plan of like, if I cared about the location, then I wouldn't have interviewed there? Everybody okay with city being on there? Okay, no one wants to change city. For this example, because this was a thing for me actually, besides location, was like, how nice was the hospital? Like, oh my gosh, Maryland, the most beautiful hospital that I rotated in. But it's just like, shouldn't have messed up my name tag, y'all. And that's why I have vibes. Like, what were the vibes there? Where you had the dinner and you like didn't want to leave, but didn't want it to be awkward? Or as soon as you sat down, you're like, get me the hell out of here right now, please. One thing for me, I was judging about where you took me for dinner for the interview beforehand, because I'm a foodie guy. And if you think that you're doing something special with people you want to work with, and we eating Little Caesars in somebody's apartment, I ain't coming there. That told me y'all ain't got no money, right? I was looking to do full scope. I was looking to do community medicine, like I said, so I needed to have like a good answer when I asked about it. I knew I wanted to do full spectrum, so I was looking at places that would be unopposed, right? And then anyways, the whole point is you set this up like you all know how to do, especially our finance genius on the chat. And then you just do simple sum scores for the rank, right? So let's say Bray Memorial is in Charleston, South Carolina, 10 out of 10, baby. Chicago, never been, heard it's great, but it's not Charleston. I'm gonna give it a 9. Ryan's back in New England, would be like 9 to 10, but that winter though, okay. And Priscilla's in Florida, but Florida, so we're gonna give it a 5. And let's say the hospital, MUSC is like, so I'll give it a 6. Chicago, baby, they got the good stuff. I know what hospital I did residency at. And again, so we're just gonna throw numbers in here, right? And the whole point that I want you to see is, you see how because I said other things, it's given us a score, because it's all the stuff that together, like let's say, oh my gosh, Charleston was so amazing. And just that by itself makes you want to rank Bray Memorial residency program like #1 overall, right? And you're just so smitten over Charleston because we had the food, and like, Chicago was great, but it just wasn't Charleston. But actually, no, that pizza I had, it was just as good as Charleston and stuff like that. So you're just doing all this stuff. And what I really liked about this, and this is actually how I made my list, was that sorry, I know that I can't type and talk at the same time, and I continue to try to do it. I apologize, y'all. Somebody beatbox or something so we can have some ambient music. All right, so one thing that I want to bring up here, because when I had punched these numbers in early to make sure I did the sheet right, I was actually really surprised. I was biased and I gave Bray Memorial a lot of 10s, right? And you see right now that technically, if we just go off of the raw score, you're going to rank my program number 1. But I said, okay, well, I'm crazy. And let's say I had a family medicine program that gave you the community medicine, food was dope, full scope, in the best city in the world, but it was, because it's Charleston, it is not unopposed at all. Like, you got to fight with everybody. OBs are kind of toxic, and like, you just got to have a hope and a dream and like, let me go to bat for you, right? But, and let's say Joyce's program, not the most unopposed, but there's like, it's nothing bad. It's just like, you have like, I don't know, like a dermatology residency that's there or fellowship or whatever. So like, okay, so I don't get all the skin, but that's fine. Orion's, let's say that it's perfectly unopposed. Actually, I might have messed up with the numbers on myself here. We're gonna actually say, let's say Joyce is perfectly unopposed to her program, right? And then let's just say that Bray Memorial was the only one that wasn't completely unopposed. Like, y'all see what I'm saying? Like, once you do that, your numbers are actually telling you, oh dang, yeah, your numbers actually telling you that you need to go to Chicago, right? But and that's why I like doing this, because I kind of accounted for the fact that I could be so gone over. I had the best daggone bowl of shrimp and grits in my life in Charleston at the Bray Memorial interview dinner, that really, if I really look at what I value in a program, I need to rank Chicago, then Bray Memorial, then Augusta University, then the Walker Clinic. Now, some of you might argue, as my belly would, like, nah, man, like the food is actually very, 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 very important to me, right? And you don't even have to worry about mucking around and being like, okay, well, how do I give it this weight? Just double it. How important is the food to you? Is the food enough where I'm going to count it as twice? Maybe not, but I'll give it like, let's just say 1.5. Okay, so that 10 becomes 15. And actually, before I even do that, like our first rank list here, right, shows Bray. Joyce, could you read if any chat's gonna, just so I can like, because again, my whole talking and typing thing, it's gonna be sad.
You say you want me to let you know what people's in the chat?
Yeah, if there's anything new in the chat.
Gotcha, I got you.
Especially like, well, I know we're a jokey bunch, so like if it's anything in relation to what I'm typing, please. All right. So from this first raw score, you're like, okay, this is what we got. But let's say you look back and, you're looking at the list and the numbers are telling you that you're like, I don't know, man, this ain't setting well with my soul. That was some good shrimp and grits I had. I feel like Bray's program should be a little bit higher up. Okay. That's 1.5 the food on things. So then the 10 goes into what, a 15? 15. And just so you can keep track, just put like, we're going to weight the food at 1.5. 7, 1.5 is what, 10.5? This goes to 9. Okay. So food's really that important to you, but it looks like it's still saying that you're going to Chicago, baby. If that's what you want. Yeah, because you did that. Now Bray Memorial pops up a little bit more. And then who we got left? All right, y'all are smart people, so I'm not gonna sit here and go through like 50 permutations thing. But you see where this is going? Like, it kind of takes all the feelings and stuff out of it, keeps it objective, and lets you put stuff. And then if something doesn't, like, let's say, let's say for example, it's me, and it's like, nah, man, my great granddaddy started Bray Memorial. Like, I gotta go there. But I really want these numbers to add up, So yeah, I say, nah, the food's actually that important, so it bumps up. And then if I really wanted to, if I'm like stressing out because I'm a med student and I'm like, oh my gosh, no, Bray's not number 1. Bray has to be number 1. I can't let my family down. Well, maybe it's something else that's important to me. Maybe after all, being like the location is probably what's most important, right? I'm talking about family. I'm talking about ties. So maybe the city then needs to jump into being like a 2, because maybe that's the biggest thing for me. One of my friends who I thought would have been great if he could have come to Massachusetts with me, he stayed in South Carolina because he had to be near his family. And, I respect that. But if you do that, right? And you say, okay, actually the food in the city are most important to me. Dang, well, she got a lot tight program, my friend. I thought I would at least, you know, Chicago's too good of a city. But like, you see what I'm saying? So if this was me, and this is kind of like what I'd be going through, and you know, I really can't honestly tell myself that any of this other stuff was that much more important. Then by the end of it, it looks like my rank list might just need to be Chicago, Charleston, and then it's like, you know, half and half between Massachusetts and Florida. We'll give the edge to the Walker Clinic here just based off the numbers. But, you know, you are your own person, so don't lock yourself into this. So if I'm doing this and I'm trying to change the numbers and fudge them as much as I can to make Bray #1, but the good Lord is telling me you go Chicago, I either just put these 4 down when it comes to submitting my rank list, or I actually ask myself, okay, if I'm not happy with this, then what do I really want? And it might end up that my final rank list really comes down to Bray and then all the others, just because even when the data and all the objective things were telling me you really should put Chicago #1, it's like, no, it doesn't feel right in my soul to not put Bray #1. So you see what I'm saying? And this is actually what I did. I remember me and my wife, we sat there together and I crunched all the numbers. I had like, you know, I weighted everything appropriately, like I felt like was important to me. And I can't remember much past my top 3, but like I said, for me personally, I knew that if I was by myself, it would have been Lawrence, Chapel Hill, and then Denver. Those are my top 3, but it feels like my true top 3, just me solo dolo by myself, that would have been it. Because I had to weight the location more important than I would have, because that was the biggest thing for my wife. By the end of it, my final was actually Chapel Hill, Denver, and then Lawrence. And the thing is that, you know, for all different reasons, Lawrence, to me personally, by myself, had the whole package. I couldn't make it #1 because that wouldn't sit well for my wife. Chapel Hill, beautiful place, location's great, it's close to family. I felt just as good there on my interview day as I did at Lawrence. I was like, yo, give me the white coat and I will start working for you tomorrow. So, you know, that was always going to be like somewhere in my 1 or 2. And then Denver, honestly, when I look back at it, it wasn't really that awesome of a program for training for me, but the location, me and my wife just wanted to do something different, be somewhere fun. Can't be that with Denver. But, you know, I just bring that whole point up in like what it was in real life for me to show you that even if you try to make this as scientific as possible, you got to follow your heart, right? Like, I think actually, if I remember correct, I think even with the numbers, because for me, Lawrence had checked so many boxes, even when I weighted the location, I still was #1 Lawrence. But for my heart, it was me and my wife, like we're Team Bray. And if Team Bray doesn't completely want to be somewhere, I'm not going to rank that #1, because like, this is the other thing. Don't outsmart the system. If you put something #1, you better be ready to get there. Don't be like, oh, no, man, they ain't going to pick me. So for me, I was a little shook. I was like, all right, if I do leave Lawrence #1, we're more than likely going to go there. And then I'm more than likely going to get divorced. So I was like, I can't go out like that. And I threw Chapel Hill up there. And honestly, when I got to my match day, I was fully expecting that envelope to say either Chapel Hill or Denver. Because like, just with the way the interviews felt, scores I had and everything, it was just like, there's no way I drop anything lower than 2, right? And then I opened that envelope and it said Lawrence Family Medicine residency. So then in my mind, I'm like, oh, I hope the wife is happy. You know, but then on the other side, it's just like all these different things. But the whole point of the matter is, y'all, it worked out, right? And that's the biggest thing that I want y'all to remember. So any questions on that? Scared y'all with the Excel, didn't I? I'm sorry.
No questions. This was helpful though. I like the algorithm approach because it kind of takes the pressure off of, you know, all the different factors that we have to consider. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and it's really not that hard, like, because I was trying to find mine because I thought I did some weird Excel sheet voodoo, but Actually, you just do the sum function and that's it. But yeah. So it is 7:45. We have 15 minutes. Oh, how many did I rank? Ready? Oh man. All right. Y'all probably have picked this up about me already. Like, I just feel how I feel. I grew up in South Carolina, but I'm not the sweet Southern boy that you would think I am because like I'm a New Yorker by birth and I was raised by New Yorkers and I will cut you if you push me there. So like for me, I think I applied to 15, and I know it's different for IMGs. Like I made a friend on the interview trail and he told me how much they were told to apply to those IMGs from Caribbean schools. And I was like, that is insane because we are literally both from right next to the Savannah River. But anyways, I think I ranked 10 because I remember I think I applied to 15. I actually only interviewed at 13 because by this time, y'all, I was so tired when Oregon finally was like, hey, we'll give you an interview. I was like, bro, I'm done. Like, I'm not traveling no more. And I think I only ranked 10. And I remember that, and I only ranked 10 because, sorry, y'all, I'm old. So now you really got me thinking back here to year of our Lord, 2018. I only ranked 10. I ranked less than I interviewed at because you don't want to put a place number 1 if you actually don't want to be there, and you don't rank a place if you don't want to be there. For example, I would have never guessed I would have dropped to my 3rd choice. Like I have been working in admissions and stuff. I know how selections and things go, and I just thought like it's like mathematically impossible. There's no way like with my whole profile. But that's the stupid thing about the match. It's dating just as much as dating for y'all. Is dating for these programs. So it could have really been that like at Denver and Chapel Hill, you know, people are like, oh my gosh, Lance was great, but like Joey was better. So I'm the one, you know, I guess I'm the one that got away because they decided Joey was the better choice. And that's why I didn't end up there. But that is how like not scientific this whole process is. I just want y'all to know that. The only thing that's scientific is the algorithm in the match system. So, but because of that, even though I knew that, like, you know, when I put Lawrence at number 3, that I probably would never end up there, I still was not going to run the risk of the off chance I drop all the way down to my number 10, and then I end up at daggum Trident at MUSC. Oh God, no. Like, I only interviewed there because my advisor made me. So why would I rank them? I don't want to be there. Like, and then you could say, well, what if you go into the SOAP? And for me, I would have rather scrambled than stayed at MUSC Family Medicine, straight up. If any of you are considering it, like I'm sure it's great for you, but for me and my soul, no, not gonna happen. I'd rather take my chances and end up in Kalamazoo, Michigan, my friend. You know, but not everyone's that crazy. So I think however many you rank ready, it really comes down to, like, for me, it was 10. But that's because at the end of it, there were only 10 programs that I could actually see myself being at. But for you, it's however much you see yourself being at. And if the dating thing analogy is good for you, think of everybody you ever dated in your life. And if you had to put them on a list from best to worst, and anyone on that list, you could wake up tomorrow and they're your spouse, are you going to put everyone you ever dated? Because I sure as hell ain't.
So I have a shameless. Sorry, I just had a shameless plug. We are also having a SOAP event on the 12th of February. So if you want to know more about that, just not because we think it's going to happen, but just in case, just to have that information, because SOAP isn't very much talked about.
Yeah. And if it does happen, you're fine. Like, I've got really good friends that had to go through the SOAP, and and I'm saying this from the promised land of being an attending. When you look back, all the stress ain't worth it, y'all. So please, it ain't worth your life. You literally never know. For all you know, your pediatrician growing up probably got into med school on her 10th try, failed all her board exams at least once, scrambled, probably took a year off to recover from alcohol addiction. And then by the time you rolled through, she was your pediatrician, but you would have never known, right? And that's completely possible, y'all. So like all this like mythology that med students and gunners like to put up about, oh man, if you don't retake your number 1, I heard that you're never going to be a doctor. Y'all know, because some of them have been your attendings, and I know because they're my fellow attendings, you do not have to be smart to be a doctor. We have to be smart because you got to work twice hard to get half of what they got. But this is not a hard job. And there are people out there that if Joe Biden asked me, I would say, take that man's stethoscope right now. So just remember, like, you're better than that, okay? Remember Queen Ramonda from the first Black Panther movie. Remember who you are. If y'all forget, I'll be the first one to tell you. And you're freaking awesome.
Do you mind if I answer this question? Okay, so IMG perspective. Cracking up, by the way. Oh my goodness. But okay, so I applied to 75 programs as IMG, and that's actually like small, like most IMGs. Well, I'm a US IMG, so I have American citizenship. I don't need a visa, but I know like for IMG sometimes like they're told to apply to like 150 and above, told to apply broadly, like, and I just didn't believe that because I felt confident in my application, and I also felt like, bruh, I'm not trying to go to no toxic program. Like I'm gonna be there for at least 3 years. I'm about to be miserable all 3 years and deal with more problems. So I applied to 75. I had 12 interviews and I only ranked 11. And the only reason I didn't rank that last one was because they did a pre-match thing where like, so they pretty much they emailed me saying that like I didn't like meet pre-match, and then they already matched the other applicants prior to like the match day. So I there's no way I would go to that program because they already have the residents. But I mean, there were some programs like on the very bottom of my list that I would not be as happy to match there. And the only reason why I still rank them, even though like I wasn't trying to go there, is just because like I said, IMG, it's just like it's like us going to SOAP or going to Scramble, I mean, is like, it's very hard. It's much more challenging to be successful at SOAP because if you're an IMG, not saying that it doesn't happen because I know some IMGs who have SOAPed well, but it's more challenging. And so I just would have rather, I guess, match somewhere. I mean, I really didn't want to match at like my bottom 3, I think. I just, you know, kind of took it on a leap of faith. So it just kind of depends on I was kind of say it also kind of depends on your application, like right, for IMG, or you know, you might have some, I don't like saying the red flags, but you know, if you have some failures or whatever, and it might just be more challenging to do as well on SOAP than put in some of the programs where like, you know, then maybe it's not your ideal place. But like, yeah, if you do think it's a toxic program, or if you heard some crazy things, say, okay, we don't rank those programs. And that wasn't my case. It was just more so like I felt like it was those other programs were like they overworked. They had like call every 24-hour call every like 4 to 3 days. I'm like, bro, like I'm not applying to IM. Like I don't know why y'all are working these people so hard. And so yeah, things like that I just couldn't deal with. But yeah.
So yeah.
So I had a question about ranking your own personal program. I know you touched on it a little bit, but I've been very like, I didn't really want to interview. I interviewed just because I always feel I just feel afraid that I'm not going to match, and you're more likely to match at your homeschool kind of thing. So, okay.
If you don't want to be there, don't do it. Like seriously, like, I mean, you have to ask yourself that question, because I remember asking myself that question for all the programs that I interviewed at that I didn't rank. Was like, Lance, would you rather leave it up to a dice roll than know that you're going to this place? And for my home program, yes. Yeah, I do. Because that's the one place I knew the most. And because I knew it the most, I knew that like I never wanted to spend the next 3 years of my life there. So don't do that to yourself. That's literally the equivalent. Like if you know it, like Joyce was saying, if you know it's a toxic program, or you know you don't want to be there, that's why I like put it to something as serious as marriage, right? Like don't sign yourself up to potentially marry the person that you'd be like, no, never.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Because I'm serious about respecting y'all's time. So like at 8 o'clock, I'm shutting this thing down. So any other questions or anything?
This is a random question, but so some of my programs I applied to, like since we didn't have to go there for interviews, and we have a very short period of time before rank is actually due, I won't be able to go to one, but I did really like the program. I liked all the people. I liked the number of people of color. It's Duke. But I've just never been to North Carolina. So, and I am from the city, born and raised Brooklyn. So like going to the South is a little more nerve-wracking for me.
You could be already, You're gonna be all right, dude. Don't worry about it. Like there's so many transplants. Like the only way you can mess this up is if like, and I say this as like a hybrid New Yorker and Southerner, like the only way you can mess yourself up, yeah, is if you like apply to one of these rural family medicine programs down here in the South. Then you're asking for it. Because then you end up in places like where I grew up. And it is a switch as a New Yorker. So, but no, at Duke, half the people in Duke ain't even from Duke. Like, seriously, like I'm actually going to Duke next Monday to see my friend from residency who's in fellowship there. And I've got a couple other friends in the area. None of them are actually from that area. They're from a mixture of Kansas, South Carolina, like Indiana, like, yeah, you'll be fine. You're a doctor. You can figure it out.
Thank you.
Mhm. I guess that's one thing that you're kind of touching on. And this might be something that, just in case anyone has this on their mind, but they just didn't know how to bring it up and didn't want to seem weird. Are any of y'all worried from like a cultural standpoint, whether it's culture by like, oh, I'm Jamaican and I'm going to this place in Wisconsin, or you're from Brooklyn and you're like, I really want to go to Duke, or like, ooh, wow, this program was great. There's a lot of white people there. Do I really want to go? Like, anyone with that kind of concern or anything?
Yes, I am. Only because one of the interviewers said, well, this is a white cattle rancher area, and some of the patients may not be as forthcoming to people of color.
Yeah, don't go there.
So I put them at the bottom of my list, and I'm debating on should I even rank them or not at this point.
I would say don't rank them. Like, and that's all seriousness. Like, I know like before when I was talking about don't rank in places, it was like finances, like depends on your risk tolerance. But because that's I'm glad you brought that up, Savannah, because I was surprised that the most soul fulfilling woke interviews that was back before woke got ruined as a word, that I had on the interview trail, I'll never forget. They were both with two old white men. One was with an old white man at Chapel Hill, and the other was with an old white man that has since become one of my best friends at Lawrence. And I say that to say, like, honestly, all this DEI stuff, it's not that complicated. And the fact that people need whole programs to talk about it tells you how off base some of these people are, because there is no way on God's green earth that you're a half decent human that he would have said that to you. So don't go there. Because if you go there and you end up in some stuff, you can't say you didn't have warning signs.
And then my next question is another program, which I really liked. They said, well, the APD said, if you don't come visit, or the people that don't come visit the program before whatever time, I'm not taking them too seriously versus the people that come visit. And I don't know how I felt about that statement that he said. Like, if I'm here on the interview, like I'm serious and I take you in consideration. But what are you saying?
I'm saying run, because like here's the deal, y'all. And I'm saying this as somebody who like interviewed in the pre-open source virtual everything COVID area, and then like interviewed people for residency as we switched to that. Yes, the number of applicants that a program gets expands exponentially when you take away the barriers of travel expenses and stuff, which is why honestly we shouldn't go back to the old system, because that was like borderline racist in classes anyways. But if you are an ethical matching program, why would you tell people that? Right? Because like if I was a program director and yes, wow, oh my gosh, I usually get 50 applications, now I have 100. But I also know as a Black man that like there were programs where I like, oh, that'd be nice, but I can't travel there. Like, oh, guess I'm gonna go into debt to go here. Like, why would I sit there and get on a call and tell people, if you don't actually come here to visit me, I don't think you're serious. Like, there's some other words I want to say to him, but it's Sunday and I told my wife I curse less. Like, don't do that. Again, think of this like dating. If I'm sitting, like, if I was ever sitting across from the table at dinner with a young lady that I was taking out and she said something like, if this bill ain't $100 or more, you ain't that serious. I'm saying, I hope you found an Uber. I'm gonna go home. Right? So like, again, like, y'all, don't let these programs take your power. Like for real, like that, like all these, like, I don't know y'all, but I know your mama, your grandmama, or somebody raised y'all better than that. Like, don't let what med school has taken from you carry on into this process. If they're saying something problematic, get the hell out of there. And they don't deserve you. And honestly, I would rather scramble and end up at a place that looks at me with all the filters off and says, yeah, I'll take Lance into my last space, then for sake of to avoid temporary embarrassment, I go to some place where somebody literally told me patients might not respect me, or literally said that I don't care that you're taking time out of your effort to sit up in your bedroom and make it look like it's daggone ABC Studios to do an interview with me.
I have a question. Well, I have two. So the first one is one program, they're really sweet. Like they're nice. Like I'm actually considering them, but like I know when I was on the interview, I asked one of the faculty members like how they support like their minority students. And like he was shook. He had no idea what I was talking about. And
Yo,
like he was so sweet with it, but he you could tell he was just very flustered. He was like, and he kind of like talked around. He was like, I know their problems and I know that like it would, but he didn't have like an answer. So like I don't know if I should take that to heart and I should have just asked the program director, but like I feel like as faculty, like you should kind of know as well. Like I don't know how to like I guess process that. That's my first one.
Joyce, you want to take this because I need to get my blood pressure down a bit.
I just, how's that a hard question? Like, no, you should be asking the people. I'm assuming the person that you asked is Black. I don't know if you said that already, or maybe another minority.
No, he was white.
Oh, he was what?
He was white.
Oh, he was white. Okay, gotcha. Ooh, I just feel like it's 2023, maybe it was 2022, regardless. I just feel like that should not be a difficult question. Like he could have fluffed up some kind of answer. And the fact that he didn't have that and he was just so like maybe intimidated, they should have things in place, especially if it's a majority, like if they want people like us, they should know like they should have something in place for us, whether it's mentorship, whether it's like specific things geared towards us, whether it's like talking about these conversations about race, about things like that, just so many different things. There's just so many different possibilities. And so that shows to me that like maybe people don't ask that question to them, and maybe they don't really have that many people of color, or maybe the people of color there, maybe don't prioritize that. I don't know, but that's a really weird response. And just because just because they're nice doesn't mean like they're, like they might still be oblivious to things that affect us. And I would probably put that a little bit lower on my list, especially if you find another program where like now they're going to be supportive, because you don't want to not complain, but you don't want to bring up especially in a racism or microaggression, you don't want to bring that up and they're like, and they're just like, oh, okay, or they make you think that, oh, you're overreacting, you're being dramatic. You don't want them to gaslight you. And so I feel like from that response, that makes me feel like, oh, they maybe not take it as seriously. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
that makes sense.
the only thing I will add to that, and just saying this again with kind of like the bird's eye view of it being on the other side, y'all got to remember a lot of the people in power in medicine and academia within medicine, they come from affluent, mostly European backgrounds, right? So I didn't think it was possible to live your life and not really interacting with Black people until I got to college, and somebody legitimately thought it was okay to fix their face and say to me, Lance, you're like the first Black person I ever talked to, and you don't act like the rest of them. And it was a military school, so the fact that I was facing like a lot of push-ups and like not being able to leave my room kept my fist from going through his face. But I was just like, noted, sir, right? Like, and so a lot of again, that's why I say like, and I say this as somebody who is on LinkedIn as like a DEI, person, like this shouldn't be a thing, right? And the only other thing I'm going to say to that is, again, to just put this in the context of dating. You're talking to, and just not assuming anyone's purposes, just he's a guy, so say you're talking to me, or out there on a blind date, and you just mentioned something about like, oh my gosh, like ladies get a short end of the stick, right? And I'm just like, I mean, I mean, I guess. Like, do I sound like somebody you want to spend time with? And like, you were just like, isn't it stupid that like, there's no male birth control? And I'm like, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I should ask my mom. Come on now. No, Obi. Sorry, I'm a cat's movie.
So, excuse me, my question was to the faculty that was interviewing me when he told me about the white cattle ranchers, where I said, well, have they ever been exposed to Black people before, or people of color? Do you have any people of color working in any of the facilities that we'll be rotating in? And he said, no.
Did he talk about like what kind of support would look like if somebody did experience that? Because the response is also important.
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Oh, sorry. I was saying like, I don't know if you got to ask like, oh, okay, well, if I experienced that, what would support look like for me?
I'm sorry, I still missed what you said.
Oh, okay. So I'm saying like, I don't know if you got a chance to ask them, because I feel like you might experience some racist patients, but like what is support look like from the faculty if that experience?
Oh, no,
happens?
I didn't follow up with that question because I understood what he was saying and not saying at the same time.
Yeah, girl. That
yeah. By telling me that up front, I felt like he was, he wanted me to read in between the lines, which I did. So,
question. So that was this place is there a chance this place, even without that question and weird interaction, could end up in like your top 5?
Oh no, not at all.
All right. You know what? So this is the equivalent of they said something stupid on a date, but they breath stank anyway. You weren't gonna call them back.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So just let it go and just take it as another microaggression to put in the bank to talk over with our therapist later. Once we can therapists, once we're attending, because there's nothing wrong with that, people. So it is 8:08. This has become a great support sesh. So, but I just want to reiterate, if any of you need to head out, go ahead and head out. I am going to put like my online contact info in there if y'all you want to hit me up and talk more about this on the outside. But question I have is, one of the board members, do y'all think, and I know we've had sessions similar to this before, but do y'all think it might be helpful sometime soon to have kind of like a match season debrief session to talk about the cattle ranchers and I don't know, what is DEI and like all the other stupid stuff, like somebody probably tried to touch your hair or whatever.
We have one coming up actually. I was gonna.
What are you saying, Deej?
Oh, sorry. So on the 29th of this month, we actually have our ranking end of interview season vent sesh on the 29th of January. I'll be re-upping the reminder in the group chat soon. So if you have more things to vent about and you just want to talk about just ranking more of this, that's the place to do it.
Excellent. See, y'all's organization is already on it, friends. And I guess as I'm trying to make it totally socially okay for y'all to drop off the coffee guy too before I just call it myself in the next 60 seconds. One thing I always want y'all to remember, and one reason I'm such a big believer in the ABFMP is this isn't like when you go to the AAFP or your state medical association, you have the resident student section, or you have the daggum, minority affairs section, and you really feel like there's somebody listening in the other room, oh, I'm telling them that they having these things. This is for us and by us in the full FUBU sense of the word, right? So this is your safe space. And I know that I would not have gotten through residency without Dr. Walker, our president/boss lady. And that's because as the only other Black person in the program with me, we were each other's safe space to, just drop the code switch, talk like two Black folk from the Southeast, and get things out, hash it over, hug if we had to, and then get back to work. All right. And I also know that, depending on how things go, because the match is so random, you might not get that. But always know that We're your family, and we're here for you all the way through. All right, now, if there's nothing else to be said, y'all ain't gotta leave, but y'all gotta get out of here because I'm closing this chat down. You got Joyce's info, my info. I will give it 2 more minutes for y'all to click links and do what you gotta do, and then we out. Have a good night, watch a movie, treat yourselves, and don't freak out.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
Thank you.